Welcome to the Mindset Connection podcast. We are your hosts, Jennifer Clearwaters and Cindy O'Connell. Thank you for tuning in for another episode where we showcase everyday changemakers who are doing extraordinary things in the field of mental health and wellness. So today we are welcoming our friends and former colleagues, Rodney Salomon and Mychal Mills from Konscious Kids Youth Development Services. Thank you and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So a little bit about Rodney and Mychal. And this is truly going to be a little bit because I could use the entire podcast just to talk about their background. So KIDS is an organization that transforms lives and communities through innovative, holistic programming. These programs are designed to cultivate resilience, foster social-emotional learning, and promote heart coherence using trauma-informed tools and mindfulness practices. They have a strong commitment to making positive difference. They have already impacted over 35,000 plus youth, 9,000 educators, 200 plus institutions, and countless community members throughout New Jersey.
It's incredible.
And their efforts help unlock potential for anyone whose lives that they touch. And they are highly motivated individuals, both graduates of Monmouth University. Shout out. In addition to numerous certifications in both yoga and mindfulness practices. Together, they're a driving, meaningful change to build a better world, one person at a time. So Rodney has been recognized for his transformational community work, has been honored by the NAACP, the City of Asbury Park, and Senator Vince Copel. He has been the keynote speaker for NJEA's Hope and Healing Conference and the Department of Health's Resiliency and Stockton University's virtual event, among other things. Mychal is also a lead facilitator with the Transformative Educational Leadership Team. You're going to have to tell us about that.
Tell me more.
Yes.
It's coming.
Contributing significantly to the advancement of educational leaders nationwide. And Mychal is also demonstrated exceptional leadership in pivotal roles, notably with Feeding America food banks, Boys and Girls Clubs, and other community-driven initiatives. By the end of this session, these two incredible men will leave you feeling inspired to be both a better person and to make you start to think how you can serve people.
Absolutely.
Mychal and Rodney.
Well,
thank you so
Sounds
much.
phenomenal.
All right.
Audio
That's
book
a
might
hell of
sound
an
wonderful.
introduction.
Hearing the voice.
All right.
Sometimes
So-
you forget how much you've done
Yeah.
until someone says
Yes.
it to you.
Yes. I forgot to say humble because they are humble.
Very, very much.
So tell us how KIDS, KYDS, came to be.
Man, this was written before we even came into existence. But I will say in this physical space and time, me and Brother Mychal have always crossed paths since our childhood. Same AAU basketball team, different age groups, went to the same college campus. We weren't really truly connected, but always gave that honorary head nod at Monmouth University, not a strong campus of diversity. So we always gave respect to one another. But when I was working at the school-based program in Asbury Park, Mychal was working at the food bank, now Fulfill. He would come to the soup kitchen once a month. I'd bring my students there. He'd be volunteering. And we were just talking about all the things that are going on in our community, the violence, the drug abuse, the chaos, the risky behaviors. And instead of just being people that's complaining about it, we're like, you know what, let's create a solution. And we were both individually on our own transformation, holistically, mentally, emotionally, processing our own traumas, actually connecting to our emotions. And mindfulness, meditation, yoga, healthy diet, and nutrition were pivotal things that helped us create that. And we were like, you know what, how can we bring this to the community? And Mychal was ready building a nonprofit, One Power United. That's going to be a classic, right? So he had the skill set and the knowledge to do the logistical and procedural things to really incorporate it with support from community members. And we were just like, you know what, let's begin. We met every Monday for probably about from 2013 to about 2015, just brainstorming, thinking, creating, writing down the vision, the goals of what we wanted to accomplish. So that kind of like the inception point.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand the observation that took place during that time, right? The observation of what was going on in the community, the lack thereof, self-awareness, self-regulation, and there was a lot of pain in the community. And that pain was, the outlets for that pain were drugs, violence, and just trying to numb it away. On the positive side, that pain was going protesting, fighting the power, which is great. But if I'm not changing myself, I'm still recycling that pain in the community. So we were starting to look at that ourselves. You know, we're observing the community as it is, and we're also observing ourselves and healing the parts of ourselves that need to be transformed so we can be better in, you know, just individuals within our work, mentors, youth, and just being a positive individual in this world. And when we began to transform, it's like, oh, like Rob was talking about, wow, there's a infinite power inside of here. You know, it's not about the external, it's all about the internal. And when we began to transform our body, diet, nutrition, our minds, and the way we're thinking, mindfulness, just being still in our mind, and our heart, developing that heart coherence and healing our heart, and really bringing love into this space, love into this space, love into this space. That's when we began to pour into the community, because we're both driven in the community, and we're pouring into the community. But I know for me, I was pouring from a space of deficit early on. And when I started pouring into me, I was over pouring into the community from a space of abundance. And that observation led to the obligation of kids and being a solution. And that's the, you know, it's on Rod's shirt. It's a solution. It's when we're accessing the inner wisdom of our hearts. It's not about the external, it's about the internal. Who do I need to be in the world for the world to change? Right. And that's where we started kids in that journey. It's like, yeah, let's start bringing these tools that transformed our lives to the youth. And it wasn't based on like certifications, this, that, and the third, because we're just on our own personal journeys. Right. Those certifications came during kids. Right. And just so it was more so like, so the schools would adopt us, right, and adopt our way of our philosophy and what we're bringing into schools, because, you know, two brothers who were just transforming. It's like, you know,
who cares?
You know,
Right.
do you have your certification? Do you have this, that, and the third? It's like, okay, we started getting those things while we were building kids, but you know, it was really passion, you know, and it was the intelligence that we were building within ourselves that led to the obligation of building out kids, schools, and communities.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So, you know, we all met when we were doing work in the Asbury Park School District, long time ago. So that's why we feel like having you here. It's been so long, because we met each other so long ago when the schools were really in turmoil and crisis. Like, I remember actually going in to Asbury Park High School one day, walking to the school and hearing gunshots when I was coming into the school.
I remember that.
And I remember looking and seeing not one kid turn around or react. They were so desensitized. They just had their bags and they were just going right into school like nothing happened. Yeah. And that really made me think, like, wow, like what's going on with these kids? So it wasn't an easy, it's not been an easy journey to change the community of the schools. So I listened, Cindy did too. In case you don't know, Mychal and Rodney have their own podcast called Conscious Educators. So if you haven't checked that out, please go and listen. But you just did a episode on your 10 years of where you've been from then to now. And I thought it was really, really interesting how you showcase, you know, not all the good things. You also talked about how you had a lot of adversity, you know, coming into the schools. People don't know who you are. They were complaining. The kids were in the mindfulness room and not in class. And, you know, you both talked about maybe going, is this really for me? And do I even want to do this? Yeah. You know, and a lot of times when you hear about people's success stories, you're not really they don't really tell you about how hard it was to get there. And you really were saying, like, you had, even you, for all that you both have accomplished, had moments of doubt along the way. Yeah. So tell us, like, what's you, because you've done so many things. So what has motivated you to just keep going and to keep giving back, even when you're faced day after day after day with adversity and doubters and people who aren't on board?
It's a beautiful question. And even your reflection on just us crossing paths in the schools and being in that environment. And we are who we are today based upon being in those environments. Absolutely. And I think as we have evolved individually, and I think my spirituality has expanded and evolved over time as I have been more committed. And, you know, I really see what keeps me going is like, this is part of my purpose. You know, like when I ask, like, why was I created? Why was I put here? And why am I being put through these different experiences? And as you begin to have an understanding that all pain has a purpose, all the discomfort, the challenges aren't really meant to break you down, but I realized that they're to build you up. And although every time something difficult or challenging would happen or take, like me and Mike, we left our job. We took way less money. We didn't have no benefits. We was working in group homes, but we chose that job because we knew we could still get knowledge and education around trauma-informed healing, but still also pay our bills because we left our job. And we did Uber, we did DoorDash, and sometimes you driving at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, man, this is the life I chose. But there's a part of my voice that's whispered when I read those positive prayers or affirmation or wisdom words. It feeds me the nourishment, like, okay, this is just building me for where I'm supposed to be. So what kept me going, because doubt's still creeping now. Like, we got a center now, we got more responsibility, but those doubts get processed a lot more quicker than before. It's like my doubts. I read a book. It said, make your doubts doubt itself. It was in a Buddhist text. And I was like, wow, it blew me away. How do you make your doubt doubt itself? Why can't I do this? Why not me? Why isn't this possible? What if this does happen? I was like, oh, changing my language, not just saying these affirmations, but rewiring my mindset to really have a trust that these challenges are really meant to transform me into a version of myself that I don't even realize. And I think that has been one of the key catalysts of supporting us keep going forward, along with the personal practice, the self-awareness, the meditation, the mindfulness, but really that wisdom of understanding that what is life preparing me for? What is the bigger picture? And how can I take a moment in the pause, in the space, to acknowledge that, like, yeah, this is uncomfortable. Yeah, this is not going our way. Yeah, things are not working out perfectly. We try to train 20 staff in a 2-month period to fill up the school-based program. A lot of things happen, but we learned so much where it literally made us even better. And being able to collapse time, seeing the ending in the beginning, that's, I think, from Stephen Covey, really helped me recognize, okay, this is the valley. You know what I mean? We just going through the shadow, and eventually the light is always going to come again, but don't get caught up in the light too long, because the shadow's going to be right back afterwards.
I think that's a good way to see with kids too, is that they saw you even when it was, out of control class or craziness, and you still kept coming back every day.
Yeah.
Where there was lots of kids there that, they're not used to consistency with people. So the fact that you still were there the next day going, okay, it's a new day and here I am again, I think that made a big difference.
And that was one of the things that the kids in Asbury Park would say all the time.
Yes.
That people just left.
People would just leave.
Would leave them. They were there one day, as many groups that they brought in to complete Asbury Park, to make it a better school district. They brought everybody in, but nobody stuck with it.
Yeah.
So it's a process. And I think that's what you're actually saying, that everything's a process. So, it's a system. We have a goal at the end, but the system may change. The process may change as we go, but we have to be open for it.
Trust the process.
Yeah,
Trust the process. Exactly. And you also, Jen and I say this every day. Why is this happening for me instead of why is this happening to me?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like, you're in the right place at the right time, but it takes a while to get there. And questioning is all part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just switch a little bit. We're going to give you each an opportunity to talk. But Rodney, we really want to ask you this question. So you played football at Monmouth.
Yeah.
So people would look at football and yoga, not today so much, but back, what year did you play football at Monmouth?
2006, 2007, 2010.
Yeah.
3 years.
So that was quite when we think about everything that's changed in the world, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
Right. And you were a different person then too.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. So
don't look at my MySpace page. Don't look at my old Facebook photo.
Still up there.
You know what?
It's
You know what I say?
It's beautiful.
All that stuff leads to everything. Every experience leads to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what you've learned from it, and that's what I think people seem to forget, that there's something to learn from our past.
Yeah.
So anyway, tell me about football and yoga. Is there a connection?
I say this often, like, and I was in high school, I was a basketball player, but I was so physical and rough on the court. The coaches be like, yo, why aren't you playing football? Like, you should be playing football. And my parents were absolutely against football. So I had to forge the paperwork and hide my pads in school. But like after my first year playing, like I started playing varsity, and like they were like, whoa, I was getting college letters quicker than I was getting basketball letters. And I was like, maybe not a 6'4" big man versus a 6'4" receiver. But what I recognized though, like I always felt so good, and this is wisdom I gained later, all that trapped energy, all that emotion I didn't process or express, I was able to utilize that on the football field. So it became like a place where I can really just release, like going to the weight room. Like I realized all those muscles, that was just trapped emotion. But that weight room was a place where I could take my mind off of the world and really be able to have a level of just clarity. But I always recognized whenever the season would be over and we wouldn't be playing as much, that's when a lot more trouble would happen. We'd be drinking a lot more, partying a lot more, kids getting kicked off the team a lot more, things happening. And I'm like, oh, I started to see that this is my teammates, some of the traumas that they had, but how like the ones who had some of the worst traumas were some of the best athletes on our team. And it was like this natural outlet that we were all using that we had. But as I got older and I started losing that love for football, my junior and senior year, I started asking myself, like, man, this is so brutal. This just came into my side myself. Players getting hurt, turn around, we working out on the next side of the field, people breaking arms, breaking legs, and we're not even pausing to ask how you feeling. We're just playing next. And that started to like eat at me. Where like my senior year, I just wanted to finish the season. Like I didn't care if I had a 100-yard game or 0-yard game. Like I didn't want to tear ACL. Something was softened inside of me. And I started to question, like, why everybody could talk when we're drunk, but when we come to Monday or we in the room, we don't talk about nothing. And it started to just like, why are we like this? And I started to have more awareness and started to question my senior year just about why am I in this thing? What is this doing? But I think the blessing when I did graduate, I had like my ego just shatter because I had my whole identity around football, sports, and not playing anymore.
That's what now.
That's what cracked me to move towards this direction. But I recognize the grit, the grind, the like I would say the endurance of going through 2-a-days that carried over into my grit and grind into how I handle working and operating. So I was able to transform all that potential energy that was towards football and lifting weights and aggression, and I was able to harm it because it's all just energy. So now I started moving towards yoga, started going towards studying, started going towards serving the community. So I found an outlet. I was doing so many mentor jobs, YMCA, mentor network, and I was just feeding into the community. And I think that came from the fuel of football. So I hope that kind of answers.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a beautiful example. JJ McCarthy,
Vikings quarterback. And he starts meditating mindfulness.
And he meditates, he meditated on the field when he played for Michigan. Yeah. But he says, I'm a person first, and then I'm a football player. Yeah, so I always say that when I talk to kids, because I think it's so important and you just said it. Yeah. Your identity was football.
And Cindy and I work with a lot of athletes. I see a lot in therapy, and that is a big thing that comes up where if they got injured or they graduated, and now who are they now? Who am I without my sport? And
hidden blessing, though.
Yeah. It is.
If we don't run from it or have a good therapist to guide us to make sure we're fine.
But a lot of people don't know what to do because their whole life has been revolving around this one particular thing. Yeah. They don't know how to cope
More
with
programs
it.
are adding mental health support at a college level.
Yes.
Because I think colleges are afraid they may lose. Like Gervonta Davis just said, I don't want to get therapy. He's a boxer. He's like, I don't want to get therapy because I'm afraid I might lose my fire.
My edge.
My edge. Yep.
And it's like in the Zen masters, the Buddha, they talk about like when you don't lose your fire, you actually harmonize.
Exactly.
Now you don't burn the village down. You choose what you want to burn instead. Yeah, so I'm like, it's a paradox that we're not familiar with, but I think there's a great room for that.
There
shit.
certainly is. So, okay, next question is from Mychal. Tell us, now we're going to get back into this program. Tell us about your national program for transformative educational leadership. What is it and what do you do?
TEL.
TEL, Transformative Educational Leadership, is an organization that transforms educational leaders. And the hopes is that when the inner transformation takes place, the external transformation really influences all the spaces, community, school communities that they serve. And the goal of TEL is to really ignite that inner transformation, and now the outcomes and the intention is really to embody the principles of nonviolence, really, and building the conditions for beloved community. And I actually joined TEL back in 2020. We were the pandemic cohort, and it's a year-long fellowship. It's a deep dive. And I know Rye used to ask me, it's like, what's that? What's that? I was supposed to join too.
You're like, what is
what happened? So do you get my letter?
I get my letter.
But it was a pandemic year, And so we're exploring. It's not about the knowledge. It's really about the embodiment of beloved community and being together, and radical love, radical, forgiveness, and radical acceptance, and really connecting to the depths of ourselves as we show up in community. And TEL becomes the practice grounds, right?
Wow.
The catalyst for what we can extract and bring back to our communities. So it's not like I learned, because I thought I was going to get a lot of new information I could put on PowerPoints, this, that, and the third, but it was really a transformation of the embodiment of the individual, right? And as I'm looking at other educators, superintendents, director level individuals who work in school districts transforming, I'm like, oh, wow, this is powerful, right? Because that individual is able to affect so many more from the districts that they work in. So TEL is really about really embodying the principles of nonviolence. I want to say my cohort year was so unique in that there's so much going on in the world through a pandemic.
Yes.
You had a shift in politics and things that are going on throughout the world. You had so much going on in the equity, right, movement, and the George Floyd and everything going on. And this became part of our learning, part of our embodiment. And one thing I will say about TEL is you learn how to work with conflict, right, in a space where it's not just conflict and we separate from each other, right, and we resolve it by, I'm not going to pass by you in the hallway, I'm just not going to look at you in any meetings.
Smile.
Right? No. But we have to work in conflict. We have to build a healthy relationship in conflict and move towards a space of generative conflict, right, where our conflict is actually a catalyst for our own growth as individuals and collective, right, in relationships. And I think that's something you bring to personal relationships, right? Your honey boo boo, right? If the first conflict, you're no longer together, where would that go, right? Until death do us part doesn't mean anything if we don't know how to work through conflict. The same thing in our community, right? And I think it translates to the work that we do because there's so much conflict in our community. I grew up in Neptune Asbury Park, so I've seen a lot of conflict. I've seen a lot of fights turn into knife, or gun, and this, that, and the third, and then individuals going into gangs, this, that, and the third, and we have to learn how to reconcile the inner conflict so we can better manage external conflict. I think that's what TEL has shown me, really, through the embodiment of TEL. And I'm now a core facilitator in the organization, but it's work each and every day. It's showing up with intention. It's showing up, as your full self, fully embodied you are.
So is this over Zoom?
So our first connection is a week-long in-person retreat, and then for a year we're meeting twice a month on Zoom, and in February we have another 4-day virtual retreat, and then at the conclusion we have another in-person week-long retreat.
Okay, where do you go for your in-person?
We're at Stony Point Retreat Center in New York. It's powerful. We used to be at Omega, and then we migrated to Stony Point, which is powerful because Stony Point is an organization under the Presbyterian Church that really embodies a lot of the values that we hold dear to TEL. And so they have a reconciliation center. I don't know if you know about the Truth and Reconciliation Centers throughout the world, or what they've done in South Africa with the Truth and Reconciliation. It was a different form of justice. It's almost something like restorative justice, but on a different level, infused in our justice system, right? So you're on trial for something that you did as a heinous crime. It's not about how many years you're getting. It's about remorse. It's about accountability. It's about you really looking and when you show that remorse and you've seen that this individual has changed, you may not serve any time, right? And that was the Truth and Reconciliation Centers in South Africa, where individuals who committed murder and created really tragic acts of violence, I'm not going to say they were let free, but you saw a level of humanity that was built into Ubuntu, and level of humanity where they're able to show the individual, I was a product of my own circumstances, and I did this, and I was going through my own pain, and the remorse and the reconciliation that happens. Reconciliation is when we have ongoing relationship with the other individual, right? Not separation, ongoing relationship, but the reconciliation of the families who were affected by that violence and the individuals who perpetuated that violence. It was powerful. And then they have something like that at Stony Point. So it's powerful work that's been happening. And I say the educational leaders, right? Beginning to look at transformation.
But we need that
schools
so much
in a
in
really
schools.
different way. Yes,
They
to
do.
radically
So much.
reimagine how schools look and feel when you walk in a building.
Exactly. And it's so funny that you should say that because, as a clinical coordinator, when I worked at Monmouth, I would go to 50 schools every semester. I could walk in a school and you can tell the culture and the climate of the school as soon as you walked in.
As soon as you walk in.
As soon as you walked in.
Yep.
But people, yelling at the kids in the hall, line up. versus
You've seen that a lot.
Yes. Yes. I mean, what are we teaching?
We do the mindfulness class. Sit up and breathe. I'm like, that's not it.
That's not exactly it. Yeah. So anyway.
Stories for days on that. Stories for days
exactly.
on that.
We definitely could.
Too.
All right. So we're always people like you're doing so much, and we have people that we work with say all the time, adults, well, I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time for a meditation practice or to do exercise or whatever. So tell us about your own practices. And also you're going to include in your answer, you have 2 boys?
Yeah, I got a third on the way.
Oh,
congratulations.
Do you know the...
We're going to find out when that baby drops.
All right.
So we don't know yet.
Sounds good. So tell us about how do you, and there again is another, you've got a family, so you're a father as well. What do you do for your own self-care?
Yeah. We big on always saying to schools and youth, to educators, especially leaders, you have to be selfish in order to be selfless.
Yes.
And I was able to get a reminder of that where my routine, I have to get up at least an hour or two before my boys do. Mm-hmm. So 6 o'clock, 6:30.
That's very familiar.
That I realized because if I try to get with them, they're coming down, and I don't mind they're in my practice, but it's a different connection I have when I'm able to be in silence and listen to my inner self and feel my body, my heart, my emotions, than if my son's playing around in the room. But I take that as a test. But every day, I have to get up earlier. I have to spend time movement. So yoga, getting the spine active every day in the morning. I have to get some breath work in to really regulate my nervous system. But that also gives me the space to be in a deeper observation and always integrating some form of gratitude practice in the meditation, as that helps generate a deeper field of coherence, helps your brain and heart come into sync. And it's you just get a vibe that I know when I don't do these versus when I do, the response I get from my environment, conversations, conflict. And I think that's the formula of stillness, having some form of affirmation or prayer, integrating some form of gratitude and visualization, and have to have some kind of movement that is in, whether I could get in for 15 minutes, I'd prefer 30 minutes or more, but sometimes life happens. Mm-hmm. And I recall when my wife first got pregnant, she has rough first trimesters, and having 2 sons and my wife that's I gotta cook, I gotta clean, I gotta do everything, I lost my practice. And I saw how much it just knocked me on my behind. I was just stressing, not getting things done. And it reminded me, okay, it may not, because I was doing 45 minutes a day. I was even just 10 minutes, Rob. Even just 5 minutes, I have to do something because every bit makes a difference. And that was a reminder where I did a 45-day challenge of getting up at 5:30 in the morning. And I was oh, okay, I fell off of that. But now I'm I know the best version of me, it has to be 5 a.m. club. Yep. And it has to be that foundation.
5 a.m. club.
Yep. I'm trying to join y'all. Yeah. I was there for a little bit. I was telling Mike,
you got to come on back to
back to the 5 a.m. It's gorgeous. Take a look outside. The stars.
It's a necessity.
It's the best time of the day.
You can feel the stillness of the world around you at that time.
And the other thing you can feel is the connection. Yeah. Because, my own son lives in California, and I'm that's the same sky that's there. And I always feel that connection with people that I care about that don't live here. So, all right, Mychal.
Want to ask you about this?
Well, wait. Let him talk about his self-care practice first.
I have found that my self-care has transformed, especially as a leader. When we have less time, early on, all the time in the world, that hour-long practice in the morning, and that Vipassana hour in the morning, hour at night, and the more responsibility, things shift, right? And you're doing a lot more in the world, but right now, I'm really catering to what my body needs, right? And my body at this point in time, we have these little challenges we do every now and again. I'm on a fitness challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And really igniting that fire inside my body, because I need it, right? It's activating a different level of me, right? And, of course, the stillness, the prayer is very important. The prayer, I also infuse a connection to my ancestors, those who have ascended, and speaking to them. And I'm also asking universe, God, universe, divine nature, what do I need in this moment? Right? What do I need to be throughout the day? And that has really supported me and really helped shape how I show up throughout the world. So I'll keep it simple there, but sound is also a big part of my practice. Sound is a big part of my practice.
I'm going to be doing a training for sound healing, so I want you to talk all about it.
Oh, sound is alchemy, right? And sound really can just shift your nervous system and really just shift your DNA on a deeper level. And so I've been working a lot more with tuning forks in my personal practice. Yes. I do facilitate sound baths where I do crystal singing bowls, but as far as a personal practice, I've been working with the tuning fork. And I have a nice little array of tuning forks that I connect with, but the weighted tuning forks, they're my bag in the other room. They're in my bag, but
you should have done a double session with these two.
We'll have to have you come back.
You're gonna have to come back.
Sound is alchemy. Sound is alchemy.
Yeah,
it just shifts consciousness.
And I remember when you would bring the bowl, Cindy and I would always marvel. You would have these bowls in Asbury Park, and we would think, they never got stolen. They never got broken. Nothing ever happened to them.
Sacred.
And they were. And when you would play them and work with them, you could just see the transformation in the kids. Oh, yeah. They were just mesmerized.
You may not want to listen to my voice, but you're going to hear the sound.
You're going to hear that.
You're going to hear the
sound. Take that deep breath. You're going to hear that.
And that brings up a good point, because you reach different people in different ways. So you have to, and I know you two do that. You give them different opportunities. Yeah. Movement, breath work, mindfulness, meditation, prayer, everything. So
the more that we embody it, the easier it is to teach it. When you teach it before you embody it, you may not really understand the essence of what you can bring.
You have to have a practice.
Yeah.
You have to have a practice.
It has to become a ritual.
Key. Yeah.
Yes.
Rituals.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm just keeping track of the time, but give us an example of what a session would be like with you and a group of high school students. Whoever wants to talk, or you want to talk a little bit, whatever.
Because people may not know.
People may not know. What is that?
With a group of high school students.
High school. I want to be real specific.
I'll bring up, we created a universal program called Conscious Classroom in the school district, because we work with the most youth who need the most support. But then we recognize the kids would be like, oh, I know what I have to do to get into a classroom with you. They got to act a fool or misbehave. So we recognize, even the kids who are never going to misbehave, they can use support too. Like fight, flight, and freeze. There's a lot of freezers who don't say nothing or do anything. So Conscious Classroom is like a mindfulness, SEL, restorative practice, 30-minute bite-sized program, but it gives the whole entire school an opportunity to get some of these foundational tools and techniques around self-awareness, self-regulation, community connection, and learning how to develop the tools of resilience. And we always begin with a welcome, we set the intention, and we ground with an agreements to really set the foundation so we can all be on the same page. We always begin with some kind of energizer or brain break. It could be from a game like Thumb Switch. Cut that out. Or it could be a body shake, or it could be a bowl count, but we just want to get them synced into this moment so that they can receive the experience. We always integrate a connection, a space where we can build vulnerability, empathy, and check in.
Belonging.
If we could make it to a circle, man, I love how Amelia said it. Circles are technology. It puts everyone at an equal distance. Sometimes you can't do that in every single classroom, but we have some form of a circle practice around building community, building relationship, and hopefully getting folks to dive even deeper into themselves. And then we have a core knowledge. It could be learning about the breath. It could be learning about sound. It could be learning about responding versus reacting, the whole gamut of mindfulness, the whole gamut of SEO.
It can also be our personal stories.
Yeah.
Because our personal stories of how we became who we are have been transformative as well.
Yeah.
Well, even
and you connect. You connect to those kids.
Yeah.
They can relate to you.
Yeah. And they can say, I can do this.
And if you could do this, I could do it.
I can do this. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Even the kids that cut up, sometimes the lesson, like we tell our staff, just because you have a lesson plan in your hand, and if kids start talking about XYZ or speaking about drugs or speaking about, hey, you have to find a way to integrate it. So it's a malleable lesson plan. We have the core pillars of intention, agreements, energizer, check-in, core lesson, and then core practice. But the room and the energy is the lesson. And that is the true adaptability of, we have the framework, we have the structure, but that's why a lot of it has to be your own essence, your own soul, and your connection to self, so that you can real time adapt and adjust. And that's how it's really been since it's evolved.
2017.
Yes.
So, I always like to say you're an instructor or you're a teacher. When you're an instructor, you've got the lesson plan and that's it. When you're a teacher, you read the room.
Yeah.
So you know, what do they need?
Yeah.
And that's, and sometimes you have to ask them what they need.
It's like, what do I need to give them what they need?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm feeling this too.
Right.
And just like you said earlier, Jen, when you are in the community, right, and we're actively involved in the community, we notice things that are happening in the community.
That's right.
And you can't just separate that from what's happening in the school. So we understand where the nervous systems are in the school. So it's like, okay, let's take a breath. There's a shooting last night. There's a shooting this morning. This, that, and the third. Someone passed away, transitioned. Let's talk about it. Right? We're not going to hide. Right? We're going to bring this to the table and have honest, open conversations about it. I think that's the most important thing. We come in as humans, right, and meet them where they are, and we're actually empathizing, showing compassion, and like, okay, we're a part of this too. Right. And we're choosing to be with you and show up, and we're not going to sit there. Right. We're going to talk about it, but we're also going to lift ourselves up out of this yuck.
That's right.
Muck.
Yeah. So, well, like
Lotus.
Cindy and I, it's a lotus. Yeah, Cindy and I got to watch you in action when we were also working in Asbury. And I know that one of the big things that came out of your work in the school was that mindfulness room, which was sometimes worked against you because the teachers were kind of mad that you were taking kids and they were fooling around to get in the mindfulness room. But tell everybody what exactly that was.
It's a safe space. It was a safe space
for
our youth.
Don't have this.
The Mindful Moment Room, adopted by Holistic Life Foundation, shout out to the brothers out in Baltimore, was a safe space for our kids to come to connect, to just relax their nervous system, relax their bodies, their minds, their hearts, build connection. And some kids, they'll come in there, they'll just sit on a cushion and do nothing. But they needed to be in a safe space, right? Some kids came in for dialogue, connection, whether it be problems at home or problems with honey boo boo. We came like all types of counselors in that space, but it was a space where we worked with individuals or in small group settings, and we helped really build a community in that space. And when you walk into a Mindful Moment room, it's not a typical classroom. It's a space where through the senses, we can actually relax our bodies. This dim light, we use the blue light filters. We have soft music in the background. We have affirmations on how great you are around the room, and it's a space for you to really connect back to yourself. And a lot of teachers did get upset, but during that wave of transformation what we have with the educators, a lot of educators are coming up to us where we're used to be called the weird hippie yoga guys, or individuals who were bringing witchcraft into the building. Witchcraft too. I'm not gonna say no names, but to the transformation was like, oh man, I was going through my own pain. Because we realized educators needed it too, and we had some educators in the high school who were coming on a regular basis. Shout out to Keith, brother man, and he was coming on a regular basis because he needed it. Right. And it's not just for youth, it's for the educators as well. So that became a safe space. And the goal was in Conscious Classroom, how can every classroom look like this and feel like this when you walk into the space? It can't just 100%. Be one area of a school. Right. It has to be the whole school.
When I go
building.
Back, I have to feel that same safety.
It has to live in the walls.
Right.
We would have that though. Cindy and I we would go into the schools and do a lesson, and we would have kids that would say to us afterwards, like, why can't they would look at the teacher and say, why can't we do this every day? And we would be thinking, why aren't you?
Evolution happening.
Right.
So we're really running out of time, but I do want to ask you, how do you work as a team? I know how we work as a team, and I cracked up when you said you met every Monday because we would meet every Wednesday. It didn't matter. If we couldn't get together physically, we're on the phone, we're on the computer, but it was
a dedication.
It was a dedication. So So what is the
because you are a
the
wonderful
roles?
team.
You are a wonderful team.
Man,
Like
do
you answer? Do you read each other's thoughts?
I think we could be in a room in a meeting, and I already know what Mike's thinking without even Mike
Well,
saying a
that's
word.
We feel
It's an entrainment,
the
but
universe brought you together for a reason.
I think it's an evolution because when we first began, like we were small. Like me and Mike did all the summer programming. We had some folks volunteering. We did all the community events. We were the school-based program. We were both in the middle school and the high school. When we split apart, I was in the high school. He was in the middle school. Then things started growing, and we had to hire more teams. So we were blessed to receive a lot of great structural training about how to operate, not from just a hierarchy system, but from a management where it kind of creates things in a more equal space where, because we don't like calling ourselves like, I'm the CEO or I'm the executive director. I'm just a co-founder, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's more than just me and Mychal right now in our team, and we have roles, but it's like all of our roles intersect. But like specifically, if it's more detailed, so listening, Mychal is like, he does finance. I do like school-based programming, but Mychal still writes lesson plans. I still send invoices. You know what I'm saying? Community outreach, I'm the lead on that with Ms. Erica, but Mychal still does things. So it's like, it is I think because we're so respectful, kind, and righteous, and even when we get disagreements, we're able to reconcile in a way where it's like we're not fighting. We know we're still on the same mission. Those qualities of how we have been in our hearts has allowed for us to navigate any challenge. And now we're at a point where we're growing, where we know we're going to have to structure and say, okay, Mike, this is your role. This is what we have to handle. This is my role. And we have to bring on folks to handle other roles because we're probably doing a lot more than we should be at this present day of time. And for us to truly expand where we want to be.
And that's a good recognition for you because you'll never move forward unless you do designate a little bit more. Because as you get bigger, you kind of have to.
Set boundaries.
Delegation has been the biggest learning curve over the last
for sure.
year and a half. It's like, and trusting in the process, trusting in the individual that they can take on this task and complete it. And that trust is near and dear to me because it may not be to the liking that I would complete the task,
right?
But it's allowing that uniqueness of that individual to show up in the workplace. So as we're building more leadership within ourselves, it's like trusting in delegation, and trusting in individuals to actually take on tasks, make it their own, wear it, try it out, maybe a different color, that's okay, but the impact, the essence remains the same.
Of course.
Well, before we run out of time, let's tell our listeners where they can find out more about the two of you.
Conscious Youth Development and Service, so you can go to our website, conscious with a K.org. We have our social media,
KYDS_NJ. If you type in KYDS on Facebook, it'll come up as well. And if you go on our website, please join our email list if you want to support. We got our 10-year anniversary coming up. Might not be shown before this, depending on when it's launched. But we are everywhere. But also our Community Wellness Center, 631 Lake Avenue, Asbury Park. Coming into the new year.
Conscious Community Center.
How cool is that? Congratulations.
And I will say, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Fundraising is one of our roles as well. In the year campaign.
You're looking for somewhere to spend your money?
Yes, spend your money. But we understand the real currency is your transformation as well. Right. So the more you can transform, and that transformation comes in a dollar or two, we would accept that as well. But
your heart,
definitely connect with us, and let's just build a more beautiful world.
All right. So I want to ask you a few questions. How do you view failure? One answer.
You fail forward. It's opportunity to grow.
Mychal.
Fail gracefully.
What are your three most important strengths? I know the two of you have many.
Oh,
three, right off the top of your head.
I'll say laughter, joy.
Laughter and joy.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Humor, compassion, and presence.
All right. And
specific.
Said three.
I did say three. So what's going well in your life?
Love.
All right.
I'll say family, man.
Family, yes. So we always ask these questions. This is from our book. So is there something in your life that you would like to change? It's a yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
That's good.
What's holding you back?
Man, myself. Staring at the man in the mirror.
All right. So what's one step you can take to move towards that change?
Write it down.
Okay.
Well, when you write it, it becomes real.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wake up at 5 a.m.
Wake up at 5 a.m. I
You can
love it.
text
We'll
us,
see
we'll-
you out
we'll
there. When
see
I
you
look
out
at
there.
the stars,
Yeah.
I'll be thinking of you,
You
Rodney.
can schedule a text
I'm
too.
gonna send you a text.
You can schedule a text
Yeah.
too. Like, I'm here.
All right.
All
All
That
right.
question
Wow.
at 5 a.m. in the
Oh,
morning.
man.
Can't schedule that.
We're up.
Question for you guys: what brings joy to your heart at this present moment in your journey?
I love what I do. I get up every day and do something different every day. And I get to work with incredible people. Nothing's the same. I'm excited every day to get up.
Yeah. And I think it's passion for me. Like, I am passionate about this work, passionate. When I look out and see one person nodding their head, I'm like,
That's all I need.
That's it.
that's all I need.
That's all I need.
Because
is
sometimes
one
the whole room be
person.
looking at you like,
Yeah, it's one
Mm.
person. Yeah.
Got
So,
Yep.
yeah. And someone that we worked with the other day said, I have to allow myself more grace.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
was
great.
like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
stop, think about what you just said.
Mhm.
So, yeah, beautiful thing. All right. And finally, remember to pause, breathe, and then respond.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And thank you for tuning in.
Hey, thank y'all.